What's up? What's up? Hope y'all having a divine Wednesday. Today we are going to talk about a little bit, something a little bit of different. So we're going to talk about the Holy Trinity in a different way. We're going to talk about the Holy Trinity of you, which I refer to as your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. We are going to talk about how right now the world is trying to pull you away from stepping into your full divinity and aligning these three things by different means. We're going to talk about how your number one goal in this life is always going to be controlling your life. It's coming into the understanding that the world around you is projection and then trying to step into your power to your fullness to actually live the life that you desire. But because you are in this reality, there's stumbling blocks all over the place, right? The food, okay? The propaganda that we see, right? Why is sex so readily accessible? Okay, all these things are an attack on you. So we're going to talk about these things and how aligning yourself against these things and taking back power and control over your reality, right? We're going to talk about why it's so necessary. All right, so to start off, you are the trinity of thought, emotion, and action. Okay, when in unison, when all three of these things are in unison, you are a God. When divided, you stumble through life. So we're going to talk about it from four different perspectives: music, food, media, and religion. Number one, music is now weaponized sound. It's just looped heartbreak and glorified chaos. And a lot of the music that we listen to, it just sounds like a bunch of serial killers, right? A bunch of sex addicts talking to us, right? A bunch of heartbreak. It is glorified chaos. And if my mind controls my reality, then I want to defend my mind against any kind of chaos. All right. Food is now chemical warfare. Okay. What feeds the tongue kills the spirit. There are a lot of people, more people than the majority of people are slaves to food, right? They're not just eating simply to fuel their body, but they eat out of boredom. They eat out of anxiety, right? They eat for social functions, okay? But what feeds the tongue kills the spirit. Number three is going to be media, which stirs emotions, but rarely offers resolution. Or we can look at the media as just a tool, as a tool of division. And then we're going to talk about number four, religion, how religion actually splits the soul. What it does is it pits your spirit versus flesh, right? Or it pits heaven versus earth. Right, the external versus the internal. It introduces this duality. Right, we have to understand that the kingdom is within you. You are within God the same way that God is within you. Right, it's one and the same. So the world always is trying to split us. So it attacks these things to keep us separate, not just in our understanding of who we are, looking outside for somebody to save us, but also it takes control of our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. And when these three things are not under your control, your life just becomes chaotic. All right? If these three things are not pointed in the same direction, if they're pointed in different directions, you're thinking one way, your emotions are one way, and your actions are another way, your life will always look very chaotic. So let's talk about it. So the first verse of the first scripture we're going to use to talk about this is Mark 3:24. If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. Which also aligns with the Hermetic principle, as above, so below, or as within, so without. Right? So the moment you align your thought, your feeling, and your deed, you become divine, which is a mystic proverb. All right, so the fractured man. We were not born broken, but we were trained to be divided. From the moment you entered the world, the programming began. Music whispered rebellion, but sold submission. Music whispered rebellion, but sold submission. Okay, food nourished your tongue, but poisoned your gut. It doesn't matter how clean you eat these days, there's always something in the food, right? You can be a raw vegan, eat nothing but organic food, and there's still chemicals that you're gonna have to clean out. All right? Religion preached salvation. Religion preached salvation, but shamed the body. And a lot of the sexual discipline talks that we receive from religion are merely means of suppression. They're not telling you what to do with that sexual energy. It's just suppress it. Ignore the desire. Just keep it in your pants, right? And suppressing any kind of emotion leads to what? It leads to that emotion manifesting in a different way. Right? Education fields your mind, but muted your soul. You were taught what to know, but you were not taught how to think. Right? So you are not confused, you've just been confused. You're not weak, you've just been weakened. Your alignment was sabotaged by design. So one thing that I'll constantly preach, that we always talk about, is how we should question everything. When you have the power of mind, and you should use that willingly to question everything. You should question your own beliefs. You should question the beliefs that you hear. You should question any perspective, right? Because this does make you sharper. But the more that you can begin to question things and step into your own understanding, your own inner knowing of what things are, right, the better that you are in this world. Let me close this so I can see a little bit better. All right, cool. So a man whose mind, heart, and hands move in unison cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, cannot be enslaved. So the moment that you are on your own team, you really are all you have in this life. Your mind, your emotions, your actions, this is all you have. And so one of the primary purposes, the primary things that we always talk about is manifestation. But we talk about it under the veil or under the disguise of self-accountability. Because on the other side of your own self-accountability, is of making everything in life your fault, is your salvation. No one is coming to save you. All right? Nobody is. Your parents can't save you. You know, no preacher can save you. No priest can save you. You don't have someone that will be able to whisper motivational words in your ear 24/7 throughout the day. Right? There's no one that is coming from the outside to save you. But fortunately for us, we have everything that we need to save ourselves. Right? This is talked about through all spiritual texts. This is talked about through all religions. But then when we step into the construct of religion, or when we go away from the words and a lot of the scripture gets distorted, now all of a sudden we're looking for our salvation in other things. I have to tithe to get salvation. Or I have to do this. I have to be baptized. I have to go to service on these days of obligation. I have to do this for the community. I have to give. I have to, right? We're always in this bargaining for our salvation mode. Then we turn on the TV and we get bombarded by different opinions and thoughts and beliefs, right? It pits us against each other. Right? It's just a word of confusion. The music confuses us, right? The beat sounds good, but the verses are not speaking anything uplifting to you, right? It's calling our goddesses bitches and hoes, right? It's just depicting our gods as just killers, as sexually undisciplined killers. Right? All of these things are just dividing our mind. It's all an attack on your mind. Okay, the food is keeping you unconscious, shortening your attention span. Now everybody has ADD, ADHD, all these people have anxiety. It's a byproduct of the society that we're in. And so the more mindful that we are of what we consume in all areas of our life, what we consume sexually, right? What we consume in our food, what we consume through our eyes and our ears, now we can empower ourselves to step into our divine sovereignty. This world is yours to control. But when we're so distracted by external things, we become these reactors in our life, going through life, and instead of being the observer, instead of walking through life and going in a situation and decreeing how I want it to be, right? Thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be. That's what scripture says. Verily, verily, I say unto you, whatever you ask in the Father's name being I am. Whatever you say, I am prosperity, I am divine. Whatever you say, you shall be given. Right? But when we're distracted by all these things and our mind is outside of us and we cannot put our focus inwardly, then we lose the ability to control our reality. And then we live a more frustrated life. You see other people and you have this jealousy. Why are they accomplishing things and I can't? Why is this working for them but not me? Maybe they're less distracted than you. Maybe that is the only thing. So if I understand that my thoughts and beliefs shape my reality, however, the food keeps my attention low. The media keeps my attention divided. The music keeps me in a low vibration. If I know all of these things are against me, yet I'm just still unconsciously walking through the world, it's going to be very difficult for me to take control of my own mind. So a lot of the ascension that we have, the spiritual ascension that you have, that you go through, is because you do want to become the creator of your reality. You don't just want knowledge for nothing, right? Knowledge feels good to have, but if you have all of this knowledge and you do not have the ability to control your life in a meaningful way, you're not going to feel as fulfilled. You're not going to have that Virgin Mary experience, right? Where you birth a new reality by thought alone, just you and God. Y'all go into the lab, a thought comes into your mind, you accept it as true, you walk through life in unison. Actions aligned with emotions, aligned with thoughts. You embody who you want to be, and then you birth that Christ consciousness within you. There's not going to be anything more fulfilling than that in your life, man. Because that right there is the power that you've been looking for. We're constantly programmed to seek things outside of ourselves. Kids look for their parents' approval for their self-worth. Right? Does this outfit look good? Okay, does this drawing look good? A parent says yes because they know that child's self-worth is tied to their compliment. We go to school and do the same thing. You get grades. We are looking to the external world for our sense of self-worth. Even the jobs, we look for promotions and raises and new fancy job titles. There are some times a company might not even give you a raise. They'll just give you a job title change. It just makes you feel good, right? It's that external validation that we're constantly seeking. We even seek this in our partners. Somebody to complete me, make me whole. So we're constantly on this search for something outside of us when everything is within us. Okay, and your ability to control these three areas of your life, your actions, your thoughts, your emotions, right? To actually point these in unison. I'm not saying things won't show up that will throw your emotions off, throw your thoughts off. But I'm saying when you can start walking through life and most of the time you are in complete control of your state of being, most of the time you're walking as who you want to be. Because metaphorically, this is even what the story of Peter was. When Peter is walking on water, the water represents just external circumstances. When Peter is walking on water towards Christ, representing his I am awareness, his awareness that he is divine. And it starts thundering in the distance. And he loses focus and he starts sinking. This is what we do when certain things slap us around. But how long do you stay sunk? Because Christ reminds us, your Christ consciousness, your I am awareness, the God within you reminds you that at any time you can just point your awareness back to God. This is a story of Peter that I talk about. This is a story of the prodigal son. Walked away, ran away, did all these things outside. In the moment, they turned their awareness back to their I am awareness, that God is within me, that I am God. Boom, that is the moment that all of their problems disappeared. Peter was able to walk again. All right. So all of these things happen immediately, but the world wants us distracted. So when we fall off of this path, instead of us being mindful enough to get right back on, there's just another distraction. There's another distraction. There's another good meal to eat. There's another piece of movie. There's another Netflix show. There's another catchy song going viral. All right? It's all by design. It is all by design. Okay, so the anatomy of power, mind, emotion, and action. Let's talk about these three things in depth. So when we talk about mind, we're talking about thought, emotion, heart, action, body. Mind, body, heart. Okay, or mind, body, soul, however you want to say it. It's your heart being the seat of your soul. So the mind, thought, this is your throne. Okay, your mind is your throne. It is the divine architect within. If you understood the power of your mind, you would not let anyone infiltrate it. You would constantly be aware of what you are thinking 24/7. This will be your primary focus from day to day. But your thoughts were hijacked by distraction. You were told what to think, not how to think. If you start studying your beliefs, anytime you have a belief that pops up, start studying it and say, where did I get this belief from? Where did I get this belief from? Who told me that they have my best interest in mind? I wonder where they got it from. what you see is most of our beliefs we receive from other people. And they receive those beliefs from other people. Now, I'm not saying that is necessarily good or bad, right? You have to be the judge of your own beliefs. But what I am saying is that if we don't do this inventory, then we could just be living life based on beliefs that don't really align to what we want, how we want our life to be. So that's a decision we all have to make for ourselves. This is why we need to question everything. Everything that I say, you should question. Everything you hear, you should question. Everything that you think, you should even question it. Is this really in alignment with what I want? If so, okay, cool. If not, why am I believing it? If my beliefs shape my reality, then you should be questioning your beliefs all the time. You should be creating new, better beliefs all the time for you. Right? But we are constantly being fed beliefs. The school has fed you beliefs. Companies feed you beliefs. News feeds you beliefs. I mean, think about the nature of a belief, all right? You can watch 3 different news stations reporting the exact same message, and they could have 3 different beliefs, be giving you 3 different perspectives. Is the information different? No, but the narrative is different, right? So we also have to be very cautious of buying into narrative and not actually digging deep to actually say, okay, what is the information behind this narrative? Because I could tell you something in a certain way. Does that actually make it true? Maybe there's truth to it, but maybe my perspective doesn't. Maybe my perspective is not right for you. Maybe it does nothing to improve your life. So should you buy into it? No, you shouldn't. This is your beliefs. The only rules in this game of life is that your beliefs shape reality. This is the only rule. And if your beliefs shape reality, then your number one goal should be minding your beliefs, managing your beliefs, being very careful with those beliefs, all right? So number 2, emotion, the heart. So emotion, your heart is your compass. When we talk about your heart center, right? People talk about gratitude and happiness. That's not really what your heart center is about. Your heart center is aligned to righteousness. And what does righteousness truly mean? Well, that's individual to you as well. What do you really want? What do you feel like God wants for you? Because so many times we'll listen to the external world and it suppresses what God is actually telling us that we want. Meaning, you might think in your mind that you want to be a millionaire. Okay, this might be a burning desire for you. Some people want to be millionaires. Some people want to live alone on a farm. Some people want to be doctors. Some people don't. Some people want to be engineers. But you have a desire that you want. Because of how you think the world works, do you suppress that desire, or do you look at that desire as God within you? This is the compass towards what you want. So if you want to be a millionaire, but you catch yourself being like, well, but people are struggling and 10K would be just okay, I guess, for now. If both of y'all are broke, you couldn't help them anyway. So your prosperity, you have ideas in your mind that are divine and are meant for you to walk in so you can actually help the world in a positive way. The world is a better place when you are actually allowing the God within you to flow, because people are going to benefit from you having that prosperity. You're going to spend money at places that's going to help people that need to be helped. You'll probably employ people that need a job. You'll be able to give people, you'll be able to give your parents a better life, your children a better life, your woman a better life, hell, your man a better life if you like that, right? But you cannot start suppressing these divine desires within you. You cannot suppress the God within you, right? So a lot of the programming is meant to distract us from our goals and think, okay, well, no, you should only focus on this. This is an ego desire. This is a real desire. Okay? Your God desire, the thing that you want to do, the thing that burns in your soul, that lights your eternal flame up, that's what you should be following. All right? So righteousness, when we talk about righteousness, we're talking about when you have a desire in your mind, your desire is reminding you who you really should be. Because you might be in lack right now, but have dreams of being a millionaire. But because of how you've been programmed, you might have issues with money because of your parents or whatever. And now you look at that, you almost demonize that desire within you. All right? But in the back of your mind, you know exactly what you need to do to make it, even if it's researching more. So if you're not doing what you need to do next to get there, you are sinning against yourself. And let's also take this into consideration. right? What is the name of God? The name of God is I am. So we are told, if you want to speak, if you want something, that you speak in the name of the Father. I mean, you say, I am this, I am a million, I am this. Now, God has a desire within you, and you speak it, I am prosperity. So now that means that you are calling yourself that, and you are also calling God within you that. Now, if God within you has this desire, he wants you to be prosperous. The divine, the Most High wants you to be a millionaire. And you say, no, I can't do that. That's not right. Right? You are suppressing the divine. You become a double-minded man. Okay? You are sinning against your Father. You're really using the Lord's name in vain. This is truly what it means to use the Lord's name in vain. To speak against yourself, because you are the temple of God. Because you are God made manifest. You are a perspective of God. To speak ill about yourself is to use the Lord's name in vain. Okay? So this is what we mean when walking with righteousness. It means you know the desires of your heart. Are you taking the next step to get there? If not, you are not walking the righteous path. And your heart center is typically more closed. Because when you're walking the righteous path, you become more magnetic. Everybody knows what to do. You know what you should be doing next. You know what you should be doing next. All right? Pay attention to these desires. Start looking at these desires as promises, as divine, as holy. They're sacred. God's not trying to tease you. God's trying to experience something through you. You are God. You are the temple of God. Start looking at these things as such. All right? So the compass was magnetized by trauma. Trauma might throw off the compass of your heart, of your emotion. Okay? Your feelings were demonized. They were mocked. They were hidden. You've been told that you're too much for expressing too many emotions. You've been told that this is how you should allow your emotions to flow through you, right? So now you feel, but you do not trust what you feel. And this even goes to food, okay? Because one of the functions of your solar plexus or your gut, which is your first brain, this is why they call it a gut feeling, right? So your solar plexus is around your stomach. So because it's your stomach, right? If you have an active solar plexus, right? Sun, solar, heat, we typically associate burning fat or moving around with heat. You burn fat. Your body gets hot and you can burn fat. One of the purposes of fat is that it stores toxins so they don't get in the blood. But when you start fasting, what happens is that fat starts to burn off. Those toxins are released, flows in the blood, and the body knows to get rid of them. All right? But another purpose, because there's spiritual and physical components to everything, is another purpose of fat is actually stores trauma. So if you have an inactive or less active solar plexus because of your diet, eating a lot of processed shit, heavy foods, you're eating right before you go to sleep so your body can't really break all that stuff down. Because you think about how long your body takes to break down food, right? Fruits might take 2 to 4 hours. Vegetables can take like up to 6. But then once you get into the carbs, meats, you're talking about in the teens, right? So it could damn near take you half a day, sometimes over half a day to digest this food, right? But we're constantly eating. We've been sold that lie of 3 meals a day, 3 square meals a day, right? So most people are eating their way out of their intuition. Your solar plexus is tied to your intuition. So typically if you have a lot of excess fat, if your diet is shitty, even if you're not having a lot of excess fat, if your diet is shitty and your body is always in this mode of burning, your solar plexus isn't aligned, you could store trauma easier. So you can move through life leaning on your trauma responses versus your intuition. So one of the first steps, if you really want to come in touch with your intuition, what do we say? We say, okay, go fast. Intuitively, we already know, right? Oh, when we fast, we get closer to the divine. You should always feel close to the divine. But fasting is a method that we have to implement these days because the food is so tampered with and tainted. Right? The food is so tampered with, so played with. The food is stepped on. Right? Even if you think of the process of meat, if you see an animal get ran over on the road, it'll be spoiled very quickly, right? But if you take an animal and you slaughter it at the slaughterhouse and they cut it up and then they package it and they put it up with preservatives and then they dye it then they ship it, then it gets to the store, then they put it in the refrigerated section so it looks like it's still nice for you. Right? This process, that animal should have been rotted. Right? So what is being pumped in it to keep it fresh? Right? The fruits and vegetables, they all have stuff in it too. Right? You're not safe just because you're vegan and don't eat meat. Right? Those all have preservatives in them too. They have pesticides in them so the farmers can, make their money so all the bugs don't just eat all their shit up. So everything is stepped on. Are you implementing processes in your life to make sure that your body is clean? All right. And so you can eat what you want, right? You just want to be mindful of not eating too much processed stuff. And if you want to eat fruits and vegetables, try to eat organic. Well, we know that times are hard. We know that, the economy ain't what it was, right? Let me not speak lack on anybody, right? So we know that food is a little bit more pricey. So one of the things that we need to be implementing is we need to be fasting occasionally to give your body enough time to clean these things out. If you can't avoid issues with the food, then the best that you can do is try to set aside time to fast. I typically fast 1 day a week. 1 day a week, right? And every now and then I'll do longer fasts, right? Fasting really helps you. Or get into the business of growing your own food or going to farmers markets, right? And actually talking to them, building those relationships and asking them, how are you raising this? How are you, what pesticides are you using? Okay, is this truly organic? What does organic mean? Because even, organic, you can still use chemicals. It doesn't mean it's chemical free. Okay. You still can abide by certain regulations, right, and put chemicals in it. So you want to just use time to fast. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Is organic really organic? Nah. I mean, it's better than non-organic for sure. For sure, because there's certain standards that you have to abide by, but it's not 100% safe by any means. But nothing is. All right, nothing is. I mean, or even spraying the air, so even walking outside and taking a deep breath, right? So and absolutely, we should be teaching our children this and learning how to grow food and being self-sustainable. But even seeds, right? You want to get seeds from out the country, and there's certain laws that make it very difficult to bring back seeds from outside of the country as well. So once you start going down that path of figuring out, okay, what is going on? Why can't I bring seeds in it? Why can't I bring certain seeds back? Or I can only bring a certain amount. When you start seeing, okay, well, the U.S. is a corporation, and the product it's typically us, right? We're the money maker, we're the product, and we're the consumers, okay? And so we want to align our mind and our emotions, our heart. So number 3 is our body, okay? Your temple and your tool. Your body is your hammer. It is your hammer, it is your screwdriver, it is whatever you need it to be. It is your tool. It is the vehicle that you walk through this matrix, through this projection in. And you only get one. You only get one, right? So the body was dulled by sugar, by screens, and by shame. About calling your divine urges a problem, an issue. Okay. You were taught to act from fear and not faith. This is why it becomes very difficult when we start talking about controlling our reality and manifestation and walking with faith. It can be very difficult if we're just leaning on the programming. And then we typically have a lot of questions about why, how do I do this? What do I do? What if I do this? What if this happens? Because we tend, what happened? What did Trump just do? The market just did something interesting. All right, because we tend to get caught up in the programming. All right, so we were taught to act from fear and not faith. So typically, okay, let me restart that thought process. When we are walking through life and we are constantly programmed to live in the projection of reality and react to everything, and then we come into this understanding that no, reality is the projection. I am the reality. So by me walking around and just reacting to everything, I'm just reacting to myself. And by reacting to myself, I am creating more of it. This is a very difficult realization because most of us just go through life and we literally are taught to try to influence life on the lowest level of consciousness, which is pure action. Pure action. And then we start raising a little bit into, all right, let me try to control my thoughts. And then we realize most of our thoughts aren't even ours, and our thoughts are always running. Then you say, okay, let me try managing my feelings. And then you get in the car, or it's a rainy day outside, and you feel bad for no reason. Or someone does something to you, you lose someone, you go through a tragedy, and then you feel bad, and then it pushes you into trying to suppress. So what you'll see is that trying to control your feelings, trying to control your thoughts, right? Trying to control those emotions, right? All that is trying to do things through action. It's how we've always been taught to do things instead of moving by faith. Moving through that highest level of self-actualization that you are God, that you are the divine, right? Because then once you move with that higher level of understanding that I am the divine, well, now it doesn't matter what I think. Well, it matters what I think, right? But now I know that even though my feelings can sometimes be thrown off, that underlying knowing of who I am is still there. Even if my emotions can be pulled off a little bit by a tragedy, they're not just being blown in the wind by every single thing I see in the external world. Right? But with that knowing that I am the divine, I can navigate life a lot better. Right? And then when I have that knowing of who I am, I can also navigate my body better, my actions better. So my thoughts, my emotions, and my body become more in alignment with this understanding of who I am. But it's very difficult to come into that understanding because the world's not an easy place to navigate. There's speed bumps all over the place. And even the teachings that we get in the world that would make sense to the logical flesh, ego mind, right, are consistently against spiritual law. So we learn these things, we learn these ways to navigate life, what we think is better. And then we come into consciousness and we realize all those things that we're learning were untrue. They violate spiritual law. For instance, we'll go through a bad heartbreak or someone will cheat on you or abuse you or whatever, and we harden our heart. We might say stuff like, okay, I'll forgive but not forget. Okay? And then we walk through life more guarded. And all that does is it begins to attract more of that situation because now we're identifying as a victim, right? So if you're identifying as something, whether it is, identifying with it consciously by saying I am a victim, or by identifying it with it non-consciously by saying this person hurt me, so I'm going to change, which is the same thing as saying I am a victim. And since since God within us is not a victim, right? Now we are walking as a double-minded man. The God within you is pure love. You are pure love. But now you're associating, you're declaring yourself to be something that you're not. So you don't even feel good doing that. And you're using the Lord's name in vain. So a lot of these things that we do to navigate the real world violate spiritual law. Okay? As within, so without. We go through situations and instead of looking in the mirror, well, we're already looking in the mirror, which is reality. Instead of saying, how did I bring this to myself? Instead of saying that, we will look around and say, all men ain't shit, all women ain't shit. And now we identify as somebody who can only get ain't shit people. And we continue to bring that in our life, right? And then we stay on the same vibration because if you don't look within and actually grow, you stay on the same level of consciousness. And if you're on the same level of consciousness, guess what you attract? The same type of shit. So we put ourselves in this time loop where we're constantly doing the same things, hoping for something different, but we're creating these spiritually toxic mindsets which just keep us stuck, right? Oh, you believe all men ain't shit? As you wish. As you wish. Or you believe you have to be more guarded to, keep away from quote unquote narcissists? As you wish. Be more guarded. Then as you wish, you can get more of that. So we'll see that it is our beliefs. It is always our fault for what we're experiencing in this life. It's always our fault, right? We are taught the same way we're taught to look for external validation. We're taught to think someone else is going to save us. Some partner is going to show up and be so perfect that they pull you out of that shell when you can't even attract that type of person. Because spiritually, y'all are not in alignment. Because you're not remembering who you are correctly. You've forgotten that you're God. And when you forget that you're God, you don't feel good. You don't feel good walking around as this half-assed version of yourself because you're remembering yourself incorrectly. You know you're remembering yourself incorrectly. There's a disconnect between who you are and who you are being. And so now you have these desires because you have to remember those difficult times, all they are is clarity on who you really are. In those difficult times, you get more clarity on who you really are. In the difficult times, you say, okay, no, this is what I really want. You've been cheated on. That gives you more clarity that you don't want to be cheated on. So what does that mean? It means that not being cheated on, that person that walks through life knowing that they're not going to get cheated on, that's who you really are. So you have to embody that person. So even getting cheated on, right? That is our fault. Typically, this is how relationships go. It's good in the beginning. There's a lot of lust and love, and that other person is reflecting that back at you because they're just you. So the mirror is perfect in the beginning, and then you start to think. You might see something, and instead of creating the story that you want in your mind, you go off the rails and you create a story that you don't want. And you think about it, you dwell in it so long that that person has no choice but to what? Do something that confirms and crystallizes your belief. So we call it intuition. That's what we say, I knew something was going on. No, you created it. And you might say, no, I never even thought about them cheating. Well, you still identify as somebody who can be cheated on. And as long as you identify as someone who can be cheated on, someone who people abuse, someone who people gaslight, someone who people pretend to be something for and then completely change, what you identify as is who you are saying that you are. Like, there's no difference. We can't in one area of our life say, I am God, and then say in another area of my life, I identify as someone who gets gaslit. I identify as someone that people cheat on. I identify as this person in lack when it comes to relationships. I identify as somebody who struggles to pay the bills. Pick one. You can't be a double-minded man. But all these teachings, these things in the world, they make it difficult to stay divine. They make it very difficult to stay divine. Right? But this is the lesson that we constantly have to learn and we have to embody. Right? The moment that we become fully accountable for our beliefs, for our moment-to-moment thoughts, the direction of our mind, what we're expecting, who we are, this is the moment that everything begins to change. Not change in a week, not change in 4 years, but it changes immediately. Our kind of third dimensional minds, the best way that we can explain these things is we think in the terms of parallel realities. If you want something, you think about something, you believe that, okay, you jump into this parallel reality now. All right? But the truth is that the reality changes instantly with who you're being. The moment you affirm something, the moment that you declare yourself to be something, the future and the past are immediately changed. This is why when you begin to identify yourself as something greater, you begin to identify yourself as God and walk through life knowing who you are, embodying who you are, you don't even relate to your past the same. But the moment that you shift into a victim mindset, you begin to relate to your past differently again. Right? If you truly empower yourself right now and you make the decision that I am God, if you start thinking about your past, you'll think about it in a different way. You start thinking about your future, you'll think about it in a different way. Why? Because it's changed. Because you've changed. You're the synchronicity. You are the divinity. It is a way because you are that way. Things in your life are because you are. They're good because you are good. They're divine because you are divine. They're half-assed because you are half-assed. Right? We only see what we are. We only receive what we are. Nothing else, right? Reality is not meant to punish you. God's not trying to punish you. We're the ones that punish ourselves. This is why it says, right? Forgive others so your Father in heaven can forgive you. What does that mean? It means the moment that you begin to see everybody else's perfect ideal as the way that you want them, that is when God can actually forgive you for going against your identity and identifying as something wrong and start to change them to actually match what you want. But if you are looking at someone and you're calling them a cheater, you're calling them a liar, right? What you're saying is, I'm a victim to this person. And God, the God within you is never a victim. So now you're a double-minded man. The God within you ain't no victim, but you are. Right? So the moment you realize that you are creating this and you speak against it, no. And I start looking at this person as perfect, now the Father within me can forgive me, and now I can have my heaven on earth. So this person changes, or a better person comes along, but something changes to get me back on that divine path. But the more that I hold on to resentment, pain, suffering, trauma, all of these things, I just keep on attracting it into my life, and I don't feel good because I'm remembering myself wrong. So what all these things mean? Okay, sin isn't what the country says it is, or the specific religion. Your sin changes based on where you were born then. If that's the case, like, that would make no sense. So you mean if I'm born in this area and I have to do certain things to survive, that's sin, but because I'm born in this area, I don't have to be put in a situation of sin? That's not fair. Unless you believe that the divine is unfair. Right? Sinning is sinning against yourself. Okay, we can look out on the others in the world and we want to judge other people, right? And we want to come up with these conclusions in our mind of what they are. But a lot of us sin every day against the God within us. If someone else spoke to you the way that you speak to yourself sometimes, right? The way that I've been guilty of speaking to myself in the past as well, right? If someone came up to us and spoke to us that way, we wouldn't allow it. But we speak to God like that all the time. When you're speaking to yourself, you're speaking to God. So when you're cussing yourself out, when you're saying you're stupid and why did I just fuck up like this? Damn, when you start beating yourself up like that, that's what you are doing. You're sinning. You're using the Lord's name in vain. Forgive others. Forgive yourself. How many times should I forgive them? Peter said. What did Jesus say? 7 times 70. Right? In Hebrew, that translates to infinity. As many times as you need. Every time that you fall off, you forgive. How often can you start sinking in that water and come back to the awareness that you are God and start to point your mind the right way? Right? And start to point your mind the right way. Cool. Appreciate you, Miss Amanda. So if thought says yes, but emotion says no, and action does nothing, you are at war with yourself. And a man at war within cannot win without. Okay, so let's go into the mind a little bit. So the mind is your throne. Your mind was meant to be your throne, the seat of your discernment, clarity, and divine imagination. It is the architect of your reality. What you consistently think, you begin to build. Right? Shouldn't even say you begin to build. It's immediately built. What you identify yourself as right now is projected all the way into the future and all the way into the past. And then now what you identify as right now does the same thing. And right now does the same thing. And right now does the same thing. And when you change, it projects all the way to the past and the future as well. So you're constantly changing realities moment by moment. It's about who are you aware of being right now. It's not about, I've been aware that I've been doing this for 3 days and I ain't seen nothing. Well, that's just creating time. If you're aware right now that it's taking time to get there, guess what you're creating? More time. You're creating more time. All right? So, actually, let me not chew gum now. Somebody got on me for that earlier. All right, so what happens when the architect is blindfolded? What happens when the architect of the mind is blindfolded, right? You were born curious, asking why. Kids always ask why. They want to know everything, right? Why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? But somewhere along the way, they replace your wonder with programming. Okay, they told you success looks like this. What does success look like? Most of us will say something that we learned in school, right? But if you really start digging into what success looks like for you, it might be completely different. Okay, love feels like that. Even let's go back to the whole success thing. A lot of what we consider success is also because of the society that we live in, right? Because we have to pay bills and have a home to sleep in and all these things, right? And we have to see other people that look happy and married. We might have a different version of success than if the society was completely different. If you were born in a different place, your definition of success might look different. So is what you consider success based on what you see in the world and what you've been told? Or is it really something that you've dug into and you've allowed the God within you to speak up and you've actually listened to the God within and accepted as your version of success, right? We've been told that love feels like that, right? Whether it's through podcasts, whether it's through TV shows that depict love a certain way, whether it's through your parents, what they did or did not do. A lot of us have this definition of love in our mind. Okay? You've also been told if you don't follow this path, you'll fail. Of course, that path changes based on your parents, the schools you've been in, right? The environment that you grew up in, the place in the world that you were born in. If you don't follow this path, you'll fail. Okay? So all of these things are built on programming. All of them are built in programming, and they dull you, they pull you away from what you really want to do. And a lot of people get to the end of their life and on their deathbed, they're like, man, I just wish I had followed my heart, followed my dreams. They get a little bit more clarity at that. You don't want that. You don't want to be in that position. Okay? Right now, in this very moment, you're the youngest that you'll ever be. You'll never be any younger. Okay? So instead of teaching you how to think, okay, how to observe, how to reflect, how to create, they taught you what to think. So your head was filled up with templates, trends, and trauma. So now what do most people do? Most people endlessly scroll, consume mindless content, right? Repeat the same arguments. And this is the exact same arguments with your spouse, exact same arguments with your friends, exact same arguments about politics. Okay? The exact same things over and over again, right? Chase the same dreams everyone else has, which is just a byproduct of where you were born in the world, okay? And then still feel lost, all right? No matter how much I debate about how I feel about politics, no matter how much I chase the success that everybody's told me that I should have, right? No matter how much I do these things that are supposed to set me up for success based on everybody else's idea, I just don't feel fulfilled. Inside, I feel lost. Well, this is your soul screaming at you, man, telling you to come back within. All right, we have the answers. Everything that you need is within you. Nothing is out there. You're chasing around everything out there. You're trying to look for answers in the therapist and in the classroom and in the priest and in the pastor and your parents and external validation from everywhere, and it'll never fill you up. Even if you find that divine counterpart, right? There's no amount of love and validation that they can provide you to fill a void that's within you. That only comes from understanding who you are, from going back within, right? So your thoughts were hijacked. Okay, your throne was taken not by force, but by suggestion, by the slow drip of fear, doubt, and repetition. The slow drip. We've been slow drip fed this programming since we popped out the womb. Before you can remember, probably don't remember when you were 2 or 3. Right? But you were getting programmed even then. So now the divine architect sleeps. Most people's mind is sleep, right? While someone else builds your life for you. When I talk about consciousness, right? What is consciousness? It's staying aware. Knowing that my mind and my thoughts and my beliefs create reality. So now I become hyper vigilant of them at all times. The most conscious person wins. They win the game of life. But the same way that we can be in a car, you can be driving somewhere that's very familiar to you, and you find yourself just zoning out. And you come back into consciousness 5, 10 minutes later, and you're at your destination. You're like, damn, how did I get here? It's the same way a lot of us navigate through life. Most of our patterns become so redundant. We do the same thing at work. We have the same kind of conversations with our loved ones, parents, siblings, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, husband, whatever, right? We have the same type of conversations, and we start sleepwalking. We become very unconscious. When we're unconscious, we're thinking about the worst case scenario. We catch ourselves daydreaming about arguments that we didn't even have. Predicting arguments. It's a fun one to do. If they say this, I'm going to say this. But if they say this, I'm going to hit them with this shit. Right? So we tend to go unconscious. But controlling your life is a game of consciousness. Can we start minimizing, decreasing those times that we're unconscious through the day and focusing on what we actually want? Focusing on where we want to point our mind, focusing on who we are. Who are you aware of being moment to moment? Not just what you want. Who are you aware of being, and what are you expecting to receive from life moment to moment? You have to be conscious to do this. Okay? So now the divine architect sleeps while someone else builds our life for you. Right? So emotion, the next part is emotion. So we just talked about thoughts, how those are hijacked. Now your emotions. So your heart was meant to be your compass, to point you towards righteousness. Not meaning do what makes you happy. Not meaning do what makes you happy. Okay? But your heart was meant to be your compass towards righteousness. You know what the desires of your heart are. You know what those divine desires are, right? And so now we see that things build on to each other. So how do they build on to each other? Well, if my thoughts are hijacked and I'm taught what success looks like, and I'm fed this program of this is what the American dream is, this is what success looks like based on whatever society I'm raised in, who my parents were, the area, the socioeconomic group, the time period, right? If I'm fed this, now I already have somebody else's definition of success. So we already talked about what the heart center is meant for, is to point towards righteousness. You have to walk the righteous path. So if I truly know what I really want, if I can listen to the God within me telling me what I want, which is the divine promise, which is sacred, now I always know the next step. If my goal is to be, let's say, a millionaire, well, I know even if I need to be researching how to make more money so I can help my family and do all these things, then that is what your heart is meant to point you for, right? That's why your heart is meant to be your compass. But if my mind is taken away already, now, where is my heart being pointed towards? Okay? So if my mind is being taken away, then where is my heart being pointed towards? Right? This is why you always feel empty, because the heart is the seat of the soul. And your soul is calling out to you saying, we're not on the right path. You're trying to get this validation externally, but there's something within you that you need to find. And that is where your wholeness is. Right? Every person is a divine puzzle piece in the puzzle of the world. When you're walking in purpose, when you're walking in fulfillment, you are making the world better. When you're not, you don't even feel right. You feel off. Nothing can satisfy you. It doesn't matter how many women you sleep with, how many men you talk to, how many times you go out, right? How much money you're making. If you're not truly doing what that divine voice in your mind is telling you to do, you're always going to feel off. All right? So it feels truth, right? Your heart was meant to be your compass. All right? It feels truth before the mind can explain it. Your heart feels truth before your mind can explain it. It knows when something is off, long before logic tries to justify staying. But what happens when the compass is magnetized by trauma, when you're fed trauma? Right? When you turn on the news, a lot of what you see is just trauma, right? It's just feeding into your trauma. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't matter and you shouldn't tune into the world. You know, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, what information is beneficial to you and what isn't. If you find that the only time you're bonding with people is when y'all are sitting around talking about shit going wrong, talking about what you hate about politicians, what you hate is going on in the world, and y'all really aren't in a position to do anything about it, right? Or it's not even your calling to do anything about it. You don't feel any desire to do anything about it. You're just talking. Is that the best use of your time? What part of that is just control? It's just programming, just a narrative meant to keep your mind split from who you are. Because if I'm talking about how somebody is influencing me negatively, what am I really communicating? If somebody is influencing me negatively, what am I really communicating? That I'm a victim. And the God within you is not a victim. God is not a victim. You're really not a victim. So now you're using, like we said earlier, the Lord's name in vain. Because to say I am a victim, and we know that the Lord's name is I am, you are using the Lord's name in vain anytime you talk about yourself in a way that isn't divine. Okay? So you were taught, right? Don't cry. Things like man up, feeling is weakness, all right? So I guess that part is more male specific, right? But anybody can apply to this, right? So you tucked your emotions deep down into you, right? You buried grief in grind. So you hide your emotions by working harder, right? Once again, trying to impact reality in the lowest form possible. The lowest form of impacting reality is action. That's the lowest way, right? Whether we're talking about action of pointing thoughts, action of pointing emotions, action and trying to do more shit, it's the lowest form of impacting reality. So we try to bury our grief and grind. We turn pain into performance, right? We confuse numbness with strength. Okay, so they didn't have to kill your spirit. They just needed to make you ashamed of feeling. And once you become ashamed of feeling, you dole yourself out. You disconnect yourself from your heart immediately. But if your heart is disconnected, then you're not magnetic. You are not magnetic, right? And so now you smile when you're exhausted. You say, I'm good when you're breaking. You don't trust your intuition because you were trained to trust the noise outside over the wisdom within. So your compass spins, but you no longer know what is north. So we've already talked about two ways that your mind is, or that you are pulled out of alignment in the big three. The big three being your mind, your emotions, and then your actions. All right. So number three is your action, your temple and tool, your action. This is the tool. This is your temple of God. This is the vehicle that you walk through reality and reveal your manifestations through, the desires, the promises in your mind and in your heart. You walk through life in this one vessel that you receive, and these things are revealed to you. But let's talk about it. Okay, your body was meant to be your temple and your tool, not just a vehicle, but a vessel, a sacred extension of divine will. Hold up, let me. My bad, I had to close in order. My stop loss just got hit. All right, so your body was meant to be your temple and your tool. Okay, not just a vehicle, but a vessel, a sacred extension of divine will. All right, think about that, okay? Your body is a sacred extension of divine will. But what happens when the temple is defiled? One of the things we have to do is make sure that our temple is as clean as possible. As clean as possible. So we can allow the divine will to flow through us. So we can actually allow God to communicate to us, right? So you were given fast food and not fuel, right? Fast food spots on every corner, man, like the crack house, right? You were taught to move out of obligation and not intention. Those people are busier than they're busier than they really are. Always moving, always trying to do. Whether it's to run away from connection, whether it's to run away from themselves, run away from feelings, whatever the case may be, right? So we see how all these things continuously build on one another. Or if I'm not truly connected with what I want, all right? So if I have a different version of success, right, I'm always gonna feel unfulfilled. And then my heart's closed off, so that compass isn't pointing right. So now my action, instead of taking action in a divinely aligned way, I'm just going to be doing other things to try to get validation. Busy, 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 show up to all these things, do all these meaningless things, sex with meaningless people, always chasing something, okay? Always chasing something. So you were taught to move out of obligation, not intention, to chase dopamine and not destiny. You learn to act for approval and not alignment, okay? The world has taught us to move for approval instead of alignment. Most of the things we do is for approval, right? There's one phrase at most men, we do things for women, which is very true. Right? But most women also do things for men. We might say that we do it for ourselves, but a lot of us do a lot of things for validation. And then we can talk beyond just for men and women, right? How our parents look at us determines how successful we feel. Right? How society looks at us determines how successful we feel. How society looks at our partners determines how successful we feel. A lot of things that we do naturally are done out of the search for approval and validation, and not truly out of alignment. Okay, we hustle for worth instead of walking in purpose. We try to grind our way into self-worth instead of aligning ourselves with the purpose that actually gives us self-worth. Right now, your days are filled with empty motion, chasing checks you'll never enjoy, saying yes to what drains you, ignoring the signals of fatigue, sickness, or stress, because slowing down feels like failure. All right? But a man who moves without connection is like a sword without a wielder, dangerous to himself and powerless against the world. Okay, let's read that one more time. A man who moves without connection. And by man, I mean anybody. A man or woman who moves without connection is like a sword without a wielder, dangerous to themselves and powerless against the world. Okay? So number 3, the world that splits us. They never had to chain you. They just had to divide you. So we'll go back into what we were talking about earlier, right? The 4 ways that we're divided, the 4 ways that we are divided from the temple of God within us. Number 1 is music, right? Music is now weaponized sound, is looped heartbreak, glorified chaos. Most of the lyrics that you'll listen to, right? Even the songs that we call uplifting really aren't. They're really not uplifting at all. Okay. Most of the songs talk about us like killers. Talk about women like whores, man. All right. Glorify heartbreak. Just talk about heartbreak over and over again. It's just chaotic. And this is what we're consuming. And this is what's influencing our beliefs and how we look at reality. All right. Food is chemical warfare. All right. What feeds the tongue kills the spirit. Okay. Most of our diet is processed foods, chemicals. So it's important that we implement things like fasting, right? Media stirs emotion, but rarely offers resolution. All right, and then religion. Religion splits the soul. It pits spirit versus flesh, heaven versus earth. And so we become people who are split into, divided against ourselves. All right, the music splits us, the food splits us, the media splits us, religion splits us. So all of these things are splitting us, and so we're never in full control of our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. So these are the things that we really have to be mindful of. Are you mindful of the music that you're listening to? Or at least how you're identifying with it? Or you just listen to it mindlessly and repeating it over and over? Or actually, are you actually mindful of who you are, who you're being? Are you mindful of what you place in your body? Food, other people? Are we mindful of these things? Do we take time to fast? Okay, do we take time to, just, even if you don't want to do a full fast, right, to just eat fruit for a couple of days to clean yourself out. Get on some juice for a couple of days, clean yourself out. Are you mindful of the media that we listen to? Or do we catch ourselves becoming very emotionally invested in all these spinning narratives? Do you find yourself hating, having disdain for people that you don't even know? Feeling like people that don't even know you are making your life worse? Do you feel that way? And how would you be identifying? If you feel like this person is in so much power that they control your life, are you unconsciously identifying as a victim? I'm saying there's something in your life that you're not in control of. So are you using the Lord's name in vain by doing that? Right? In religion, it splits the soul, spirit versus flesh, heaven versus earth. Are you and I know I talk about religion a lot, right? But are you mindful of the relationship that you have with the God within you? You truly know that your beliefs and who you believe you are shapes your reality. And are you doing everything in your power to make sure that the relationship that you have with the only person that matters, your higher self, God within you, is ideal? Okay? So your mind wants freedom. Your heart longs for peace. Your actions chase distraction. And you wonder why nothing manifests. We wonder why we struggle to make our lives the way that we want it. But our mind is always craving its freedom. Our heart is longing for some kind of peace. Our actions are just chasing distractions and trying to numb the pain of being in a world with no purpose. But then we're hoping that we can manifest from a position of lack. Okay? So number 4, the spiritual physics of creation. All right, creation demands congruence. Mark 11:24, whatsoever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive it, and you shall have it. Whatever you desire, not some things, not a few things. Okay, whatever you desire, when you pray, believe that you receive it. Believe that you receive it. So walk around like God owes you it, expecting it. Okay, it doesn't say beg that you'll receive it. It doesn't say try to bargain so you'll receive it. Right? It says believe that you will have it, and then you will have it. Not believe you'll have it and you might have it, but believe and you will have it. These are promises. Hold the God within you accountable. Hold yourself accountable, right? Walk in expectancy. Walk like you are God and you expect this desire to show up any minute, and until then, I'm going to enjoy the world and I'm going to walk the righteous path until then. Okay? So desire is born in the mind. Belief is carried in the heart. And receiving is activated through action. This is why we have to have these 3 things aligned. If I'm not connected mentally because of my diet, because I don't meditate enough, right? Because all of my beliefs are aligned to what the world has been telling me. This is how you should believe. This is what success really is. You don't even really want it. Right? Then you're going to be removed from your own desire. So if your mind's not clear, desire can't be born because desire is born in the mind, right? Belief is carried in the heart. So if I'm just walking around traumatized and suppressing my emotions, and I find it very hard to believe these days because of what I see on the TV and what I see in the world, right? Since belief is carried in the heart, it's going to be very difficult for me to attract the things that I want. Okay, and then receiving is activated through action. If my actions are not in alignment with what I want because I don't really know what I want, or if I think I know what I want, but I'm not walking the righteous path because I'm full of all this trauma, I will not let go of the people that hurt me, of the things that hurt me. Or I pretend that I let go and I say, oh, I forgive and I don't forget. This is the same thing as holding on to it. Because you're not looking at them ideally anymore. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you just completely have to, take people back in your life. If you feel the need to distance yourself from somebody, cool. But you should be working your hardest to forgive people because it's not about you. It's allowing that God within you to forgive yourself for being a victim, for identifying, not being, identifying, which is the same as being, I suppose, identifying as a victim and speaking against the God within you. Right? So receiving is activated through action. If even one is off, right? We just talked about it. If even one is off, the current of creation is broken. If my mind's not clear, if my heart is not open and full of love, if my actions are not aligned, the current of creation is broken. I can't even declare something as divine action, inspired action, whatever we call it, right? Even though your declaration that it is inspired action is what actually makes it that way. But if I'm not moving in alignment because my heart is off, I'm just moving in trauma, I'm doing something that I'm trying to say this is inspired action, right? But I'm doing something based on a trauma. And I know that my action is just so I'm suppressing this pain. I don't want to sit alone, so I go sleep with somebody. I don't want to sit in this difficult conversation with this person. So I go cheat, or I go out to the club, or I go drink, or I do something. You know that that's not in alignment. Okay? The current of creation is broken then. Because deep down, you know, you can declare it all you want. But it's also about who you are being. Who are you aware of being? And we know when we're not walking that righteous path. You don't even feel like yourself. You know when you shouldn't be sleeping with people. You know that. You know when you shouldn't be out and you should be studying. You know when you should be doing other things. You know when you should be spending time with your family instead of grinding. You know when you should be grinding instead of spending time with your friends. All this. Okay? So when one of these things is off, it just throws off the entire current. You become out of balance. We try to compensate with more action. Let me control my thoughts more. Let me try to control my emotions more. But we do it from this state of not understanding that we're God, not releasing things, and it just looks like suppression. Trying to control your emotions from a state of not understanding your God and not releasing things and seeing the world as perfectly unfolding for you manifests as suppression. Okay? So you are the Trinity. You are the Trinity, thought, emotion, and deed. And when these align, the world responds. Okay, so thought equals vision, emotion equals energy, and action equals form. Okay, vision, energy, and form. Alignment is not a luxury, it is law. A house divided cannot manifest. A soul divided cannot rise. You divided cannot rest. So reclaiming wholeness. Okay, cleansing the mind, healing the heart, and honoring the body. All right, here's a couple of things that we can do. Right, number one, fasting. Fasting from certain foods, right? When you want to do a water fast, juice fast, dry fast. I'm not a doctor, but do your research and do these things. These things can connect you back to your God-given right. Your right is your intuition. But when we're consuming too much BS, our intuition is thrown off. And oftentimes what we think is intuition is just our delusions being made manifest in the world. You've thought that this person has been cheated for so long that when they finally do, because they have to conform to you, you call it intuition, but really you just created it. Right? Tap back in with your real intuition, not with the programming. Right? So fast from food, fast from media. Okay, read sacred texts. I'm not going to point you to a certain one, but all these sacred texts hold countless layers of wisdom. Right? If you don't read the Bible, don't read it from a historical perspective. Read it from a metaphysical, from a metaphorical perspective. Right? But all these things hold countless layers of insight that might push you closer to where you need to be. All right? Challenge your inherited beliefs. Challenge what you believe is true about the world. Why do you have certain goals in your life? Why? You know? Why? How do you define success? Write it out. Why do you define success like that? Is it because that's what your soul is truly craving, or is it because of where you were born in the world? Right now, of course, because if you're in the States or if you're in a different country or whatever, there are certain things that you're gonna want to have to consider yourself successful if you're in a certain place, right? If you really want to live in the city, right, then you're gonna have to have a certain income, all that. But what I'm saying is make sure that what you desire is really what you desire, and it's not just you appeasing your parents or trying to get money or live in a certain area because that's going to appease women. And you feel like when you get more women, it's going to make you happy and more fulfilled, and you'll have more fun. Right? Challenge yourself. Right? Now, if that's the conclusion you come to, that's going to make you whole, okay, go ahead. But all I'm saying is if you're not in alignment with what you're trying to do, there's no amount of external validation that is going to make you feel whole. If you don't feel whole while you're pursuing it, that's a good way to measure it. If you don't feel whole while you're pursuing it, there's something out of alignment. There really should be a sense of satisfaction just by doing it. Okay? Your mind must become your servant again, not your master. How I say you should always walk through life, right, is you should be the observer. You should be observing everything around you. And when a situation arises, you should decree how you want that situation to go. You're going to go out to dinner, you should decree how you want it to go. Before you go, it's going to be good. You're going to give a nice tip. Service is going to be great. And then you allow yourself to flow through that experience. And then the next situation comes up and you decree how you want that to go. But most people live their life backwards. They'll go through a situation, they'll just react to it. Then they'll reminisce about it and all the negative shit. And then they go to another situation and they react to that. Then they reminisce about that. Then they find themselves in another situation and they react to that, creating backwards. So if you're just reacting to your own creation, guess what you're doing? You're creating more of what you're reacting to. So this is why you tend to live life and things happen the same way. Same type of men, same type of women, same type of experiences, same type of betrayal, same types of breakups, right? Because you go through these things, you don't decree how you want it to be. Even scripture says, thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be. Thou shalt speak as a legal authority. Decree means speak as a legal authority. So when you begin to decree things, now they will go that way. And then you get to the end of the day and you think about all the things that you did not like and you reimagine them. If they went ideal, how would they be? And you replay that in your mind before you go to sleep. Then you go to sleep and you wake up and you do it all over again. Before you go in a situation, you decree how you want it to be. How do you want your work day to be? It's going to be a good day. All my meetings are going to be sharp. I'm going to get everything that I need on the first try. I'll communicate effectively with everybody. Today's going to be a good day. And then you flow through the day. And then you flow through the day as the observer. And then the next situation pops up and you decree it. And you begin to start creating. And then anything that does not go your way, you start reimagining it. Now, this is how you step into creator mode in your life. If you catch yourself coming out of the situation and then just reacting, in situations just reacting, just know that you're creating that again. So stop yourself, catch yourself. You can always catch yourself. All right? So your mind must become your servant. How conscious can you be? Number 2 is going to be healing the heart. Okay, feel fully, forgive deeply. Feel fully, forgive deeply. Speak truth even if your voice shakes. Emotion is sacred. Emotion is sacred, right? It fuels manifestation, right? Cherish those times that you feel good. Don't shy away from your emotions. Okay? And then number 3, honor the body. Move with intention. Begin to treat your body like an extension of your mind. Your body is the vehicle that you're going to use to walk through this life and actually manifest your desires, help the world in a positive way, right? So eat to energize and not to sedate. Be mindful of who you sleep with, man. Be bougie with your sexual energy. Be picky with the women that you lay down with. Women, be very picky with the men that you deal with. Okay? Speak, act, and walk in alignment with your inner truth. And in order to do that, you have to figure out what your inner truth is. You have to do that internal work to start looking, start understanding, what is my inner truth, man? What am I aligned to? What does God want me to do? What is my soul screaming at me to do? Right. So a couple questions, 3 questions, right? Number 1, do my actions reflect what I say I believe? Number 2, do I feel what I think? Or are those out of alignment? Do I feel what I think? And am I doing what I feel called to do? Those things can help you understand if you're in alignment, right? Do my actions reflect what I say I believe? Well, then I'm out of alignment if they don't. Do I feel what I think? Well, then I'm out of alignment. It's just a little bit of work to do, right? Am I doing what I feel called to do? If not, I'm out of alignment, right? And even in some of these things, right? Like if I don't feel what I think, but I know I'm thinking on the righteous path, well, I just keep thinking that. That just means that, okay, my feelings have to catch up, and they will. But which one is actually right? Is the feeling right? Is the thought right? Why are they in opposite directions? Be the student of yourself. The number one project you'll have in your own life is your life. Treat it. Be more thorough in evaluating it than you are at evaluating the job that you work at. Because when you align these three, this is the most important thing for you to do to actually get the things that you really want. Everything that you want is on the other side of you just working on your alignment, of making sure that you are actually being who you say you are. Because this is really what this whole discussion is on. This whole discussion is just about being. Who you are being determines what reality that you're going to get. And so these are common pitfalls, but these are all things that you can change right now. Right? Like, when I talk about this work, we're not talking about it from a perspective of, oh, you can't get what you want until you do work for 6 months. That's an illusion. You can make a decision right now to be more mindful of your thoughts, to be more mindful of the information that you consume, to be more mindful of who you forgive and who you don't forgive. You can make that decision right now. You can change your reality right now. It doesn't take time, it just takes awareness. Right? If you find yourself thinking that alignment is in the future, maybe you should just change it to awareness. Change the word to awareness. Right? Good afternoon, good afternoon. Right? So this is your power. Right? You don't need more time. You need more unity within yourself. You don't need more affirmations. You need to stop betraying yourself. You don't need more knowledge. You need to act on what you already know. The system knew that anyone in alignment would rebuild Eden within him. You'll rebuild that Garden of Eden within yourself. Right? So it gave you noise, it gave you shame, and it gave you lies. But the truth never left you. It was only waiting for the parts of you to remember each other. Right? And do I not feel tired doing all this work? Yeah, I think it's normal to think like that because it could seem like a daunting task. But what it really is a moment by moment decision, right? Like in every moment, you're not going to be working to forgive someone. It's a game of consciousness and you attack things as they show up. So today could be a very smooth day. No triggers, right? I'm just aware of being a God all day and life just runs smooth and I have good situations lined up and boom, it works out really well. But then let's say that, an ex hits you up, or let's say you get in an argument with somebody. And in that moment, you catch yourself in consciousness. This is where the work is, right? It's when you catch yourself throughout the day slipping. That's where the work is. Now, if you have a lot of moments where you've slipped because you've been just running unconscious for a long time, sure. But don't think about it as this overhaul of, oh, I have to do all this shit right now to change. Just think about it as I just have to be conscious that I am the divine and I have to hold myself. That's why the golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. If you just think of it from that, I'm trying to put it in a practical way. But if you really summarize all of this, it's just treat others how you want to be treated. You want to be forgiving, so forgive other people. You want other people to see you as divine and see you as perfect, so see other people as perfect. But the added incentive is that as I see people as perfect, now the God within me forgives me and gives me the things that I want because I'm moving in alignment with who I really am. Well, that's just one example. But don't think of it as this, I go into the lab and do all this work right now. Think about it on a moment by moment basis, right? The next time I want to eat, all right, really think about, okay, would I be just as full if I ate a slice of pizza versus I ate, a watermelon? Maybe the watermelon, it doesn't even sound appetizing to me. So I could just ask myself, okay, am I really hungry or am I just bored or whatever? Right? So, I don't know. It can seem like a big journey or a lot of work if I'm balling it all up and I'm saying I have to do it all right now. So that would be my advice. Is you can only impact, it only matters who you're being right now. And you can only do the work as it comes up. And that's normal, brother. our sister. My bad. My bad. I couldn't tell by the thumbnail. But that's normal. Getting anxious is normal, right? But we have to understand we're really not our feelings and not our thoughts. We're who we are aware of being. So right now, you're aware that you're divine. Right? I'm aware that I'm a God. I am a goddess, right? So you walk through life and you radiate that energy. And as situations show up, as I am in that awareness, I just ask myself, like, okay, cool. Like, what do I do next? It's just like, thanks. Cool. But yeah, as things come up, then you just ask yourself that, right? But there's nothing wrong with being anxious. Just don't, you're feeling anxiety. You are not actually anxious. I'd be in the car, I could feel sad, but I am not sad. I am still God. You are still God, right? You're still in the awareness of who you are. You're just experiencing a little sadness right now, which is fine. Right. So the truth never left you. It was only waiting for the parts of you to remember each other. Okay. So the system knew that anyone in alignment would rebuild Eden within themselves, right? So it gave you noise, it gave you shame, and it gave you lies. When we talk about Eden, one of the metaphorical ways that we can talk about Eden is just being in alignment, right? The Garden of Eden representing basically you in alignment, your body in alignment, right? You walking as your higher self, right? So when you were cast out of Eden, you were cast out of the walking in your higher self and into this world. And this world introduces illusions and introduces pitfalls to keep you in your lower three energy centers. And your lower three energy centers, right? The root center, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus, right? These represent, if you're stuck in any one of these lower energy centers, it represents being stuck in hell. So if I'm stuck in my root center, that means I don't feel safe and grounded in the world. Or maybe I have a lot of money issues because of the structure of the world. Or maybe I'm trying to please everybody. I'm seeking this validation because I'm not secure within myself. That can feel like hell. And if I'm not stuck in if I'm not safe in who I am, if I don't feel confident in myself, well then I'm identifying as not in my God nature, so now I'm against God. Okay? So my life can feel counter to what I actually want, which is hell. All right. The second is sacral, so it represents your sexual energy, your creative energy. If I'm a slave to my lust, running around having meaningless sex, or if I'm trying to buy validation through my sex, right? I know that, because I'm skilled, she will like me if I have sex with her. Or ladies, I can lock him down if I have sex with him. If you are a slave to your lower energy centers, you feel like you're in hell. A slave to lust, man, you're in hell, right? And then your solar plexus, if your intuition is off, right, like we talked about earlier, if you're a slave to gluttony, can't control what you eat, you can feel like you're in hell. You might not have the body you want. That could feel like you're not really aligned to who you're supposed to be. Right? It might not feel like that, but it could feel like that, right? Or you just feel like you don't have that connection with source, with your intuition. Whatever the case may be. Typically when you're stuck in these lower three energy centers, it feels like you're stuck in hell. But when you start giving yourself grace and forgiving yourself and taking things one moment at a time, right? Because the problem with, really it comes down to taking things one step at a time. I won't even overcomplicate it. That's what it is, taking things one step at a time and walking with your heart center open. Walking the righteous path. What is the next best thing that I can do right now? It's not about planning out for 10 years. That's where a lot of our anxiety comes from, is because as people, we try to overuse our conscious mind. We're always thinking about, oh, well, I have to do this, and I have to make the perfect plan, when there's no such thing. Rest in the fact that there's never been a perfect plan in the history of life. Never. Right? People make plans and they always change because you can never predict other people. You don't know who you have to meet on that path. You don't know who needs to help you on the path. You don't know where you need to be sharpened and what you need to learn, so you have to be pushed into certain rooms. So, like I always say, your plan is just a vehicle for God's will, man. Right? The Most High is going to look at your plan and say, wow, this is great for a human. Now, let me actually show you how it's done, right? And it's going to close doors and redirect you and all these. So you can already rest assured that your plan sucks. So you make a plan just so you can take the next step. And each step, then you say, okay, what is the next step I should take? And then when the plan looks off, you just redirect yourself. You hold yourself up knowing that it's unfolding perfectly. The situation may not look ideal, but the God within me is perfect, so the situation is always unfolding perfectly. And continue to walk in that inner knowing, moment by moment, step after step. And this is how you conquer the world, right? One step at a time. When we say things like that's what it means. You have to stay in the present moment. What is the righteous decision right now? It's the best thing that you could be doing right now. All right? Do that. That's all you can do. Right? You can't do what you think is going to be best next week right now, because you don't know. Every moment, life changes. So by the time next week comes, it might be a different thing that you have to do. So you do what's next on the plan, and then you regroup. And you still see yourself as that divine being, and you continue to move forward through life. And this is how you collapse time and get to where you want, moment by moment. You can't jump. You can't jump into next week. You cannot jump into next week. It's moment by moment. All right? So the final declaration, Matthew 6:22, right? When the eye is single, the whole body is filled with light. When we're walking in alignment, right? The whole body is filled with light. So you are meant to be whole. You are destined to be divine. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions are not enemies. They are the three witnesses of your soul. Okay? Your thoughts, your emotions, and actions, they're not enemies. They are the three witnesses of your soul. They are the Holy Trinity of you. Okay? When they agree, you become unstoppable. So reflection questions. Number one, where am I out of alignment? My thoughts, my emotions, or my actions? Which one is out of alignment, if any? And I'm not talking about in your entire life, right? I'm talking about right now. This is all you can control is right now. Which one is out of alignment, if any? Okay? Number two, what beliefs have I inherited that cause me to suppress my feelings? Where did I inherit it from? Right? Let's say you inherited it from your parents. Parents, I truly believe a lot of the work that we have to do to get in alignment is in forgiving our parents. It's understanding that nobody had a manual. Right? There were times in my life, of course, there are always things that parents could do better, but no one has a manual on how to be the perfect parent, how to raise some newborn child, right? You just come into this world kicking and screaming, looking crazy as hell. And these parents are like, wow, you're beautiful. Now I have to make sure that you survive. I have to do my best. And I still have to connect with my spouse. And I can't understand you for the first couple of years. And then, right, it's very difficult. Being a parent is a very difficult job. And we get older, and it's very easy for us to not give our parents grace. And say, well, you could have done this different. When I'm a parent, I'm gonna do this different. I'm gonna be better. That's what it's supposed to be. That's exactly what our parents said about their parents, right? I'm gonna do better. But you also have other situations, right? Where there was times in my life where if I had a child, I would have been terrified. I would have had no idea what the next step would have been, right? But is there a more sacred duty than being a parent? To bring another soul into this realm. Is there anything more sacred? To try to love this thing unconditionally. Right? To try to be the best version of yourself for them. To give them the things you missed out on. Right? Just to do your best. And there's gonna be certain times where you look at what you're doing and you do not feel like you're good enough. You have imposter syndrome. damn, am I being a good parent? And you'll probably pray about it. You'll probably cry about it. You'll probably stress and struggle about it. But we also have to rest in the fact that before we incarnated here, based on what we needed to experience, we chose our parents. We decided who they were going to be because we needed the experience of them. So just doing your best as a parent, whether you think you're doing a good job or not, you are being perfect. Just by doing your best, even if your best today is 5%, you are doing a perfect job. And so understand that we have to look back and yeah, it's very easy to point the finger at our parents. But one of the biggest ways, main ways that we can block the flow of the divine within us is holding on to issues that we have from our parents, whether they were there or not. Right? Those mother wounds and father wounds, holding on to that energy and demonizing our parents. Right? Just looking at their flaws and not their beauty. That you wouldn't be here without them. Whether they're present or not, whether they did, what you consider to be their best or not, right? You would not even be able to have this experience without them. And we can try to make it make sense and argue for our limitations and say, no, well, they could have done this and you just don't understand. You're right. No one understands but you. No one will ever understand your experience but you. Right? But if I'm identifying as a victim of anybody, and typically that's the first people that we identify ourselves as a victim of, is our parents, right? Then if I'm identifying as a victim, I'm identifying the God within me as a victim as well. And so I'm using the Lord's name in vain. It always comes down to that. Am I consciously or unconsciously calling myself a victim? Right. And facts, man. Yeah, facts. It's all unfolding in ways that we can't fully understand, man. Always. And it's also, a very interesting thing that we go through in life with parents, especially, right? And I remember when this first started shifting, and I was very conscious of it, but it's as if our parents age forward and backwards at the exact same time. So you come into this world and you're small, your parents take care of you, and then you get to this point where it flips, right? I think most parents' goal is you want your child to be better than you. You want them to be more conscious than you, more wise than you, more capable than you, richer than you. You want them to be better than you, to experience better things in life. And so we come to this point, especially as men, I'm sure women do as well, right, where you start to realize, you start to see the chinks in your parents' armor. Right? You start looking at them and you're like, damn, my parents are not perfect. Or they were just trying their best. And then you start to realize that they're getting old. And you start looking at them almost like children. It's where now even my relationship with my mom is completely different, where I'm the one giving her advice and I'm talking her through things and I'm kind of telling her what to do and her regimen, and I'm father as well, right? But it's a very interesting thing because it's like they're getting older, but then you kind of, surpass is the wrong word, but you go into a caregiver role with them. And then the expectation is that one day your kids are going to do the same thing. And then their kids are going to do the same thing. So there's this simultaneous aging forward and backwards where, and I'm sure my parents, they say how proud they are of it. And I think that's something that a lot of parents can take pride in, is when you get to a point and you can kind of rest in the knowing of who your children are. Right? But it is something that we have to be very conscious of, and it is, how do I even put that? It's like a jarring realization. Right? Where it's okay, my parents, my dad wasn't Superman, right? He has flaws and faults. Even getting to the point where I got older and I've started to, and now I'm deeper in my parents' disagreements, and I'll catch myself saying things like, "Yeah, I understand why my dad was doing that. Like, yeah, I understand why he didn't want to talk sometimes to my mom." Or I'll be like, "Okay, yeah, I understand why my mom was doing that to my dad." They both have their quirks, right? And so you see, even in relationships, that okay, well, there's really no perfection. Everyone is just doing the best that they can and figuring it out. There's no manual on how to do this. No one has the perfect blueprint of how to be a parent, how to be a spouse, a husband, a wife, any of that thing, any of that. So the more that we can align, our beliefs and make sure that our beliefs are actually in alignment with what we want, and we can become students of everything. Study how our parents did things. Study how we see other people do things. Study why we believe the things that we do. And we can put all of these things together. We can be as good as we need to be. Also understanding that we'll never really get to perfection. Never truly get to perfection. But that was a side note, a little side quest. I love the side quest, man. But cherish your parents, whether they were there or not. Whether you think they could do better or not. Understand that whatever position they were in life when they had you, they've had to grow up very quickly because they had you. And there were a lot of times that they doubted, and there were a lot of times that they've regretted shit they've done for you, with you. Right? They've questioned if they were going to traumatize you. And then even another layer on top of that is, we talk about healing trauma, especially as melanated folks, right? We talk about healing trauma. A lot of the trauma that we experienced from our parents wasn't even our parents' fault. They were trying to survive. They had no idea what they were doing. They were put in situations where, they were just trying to make it to the next day, right? So even some of the things that we have, your parents are not even going to truly be conscious of it. Fortunately, we're in a better position where we can, look at things from a different lens, because the younger generation should always be more conscious than the older generation. That's how it should be if we're doing what we need to do. But there are a lot of things that we experience. Man, your parents they're not even aware of what they were doing. Like they're just passing on what they learned from their parents that were trying to survive. Okay. But it's something that everybody can relate to. But side note. So number 3, right? Number 3 is, what daily habits actually reinforce the vision within me? Well, we talk about, walking that righteous path and questioning, am I truly doing what I want? And one of the key things that you can do to feel this is, do you feel any kind of fulfillment in the path that you're on? Do you feel fulfillment in the path that you're on? Right? And so my daily habits, are they primarily to seek validation? I'm trying to make money because I feel like I'll get more women, or this woman will love me more, or my parents will finally be proud of me? Or are you actually taking movement or taking action that's in alignment with what you want to accomplish? Right? And there could be, so the difference of it could be, it's one thing, and we all have to define this for ourselves, right? Keep in mind, I'm speaking from a single perspective. We all have to say things that make sense to us. So a difference for me to be the shift from doing things to get women versus doing things to provide for my parents, to take care of them because they're getting older, right? Those could put you in 2 different heart spaces, 2 different mind spaces, right? Where on one hand, you're constantly just seeking that validation. On another hand, just the pursuing makes you feel proud and gives you fulfillment. Now, it could be the other way for you, but this is something that we all have to search within ourselves, right? There's no single path. But the path that you choose has to be in alignment with you. And you can only find an alignment by actually doing the work, right? Really thinking. This is why when we talked about the mind first, this is why school can be so damaging. Is because it doesn't really allow you to think about these things. I'll have clients, right, and we start working through this, and we have to really recalibrate how we think. Because when I say, okay, think about what you really want, let's really start diving into it. It's like, damn, how do I even do that? And that might be a first question. It might seem like a daunting task to sit down and say, okay, what do I really want? How do I know if this is really programming or not? Where do I even start? Because most of our life in this world we haven't been taught how to truly think for ourselves. We've been taught what to recite, like what to say, like what to do. What to actually think and question, that's a whole nother skill set. Okay? So number 4, what would it look like to be fully integrated? What would it look like and feel like to know that I believe that this desire within me is something that God put in me? Every moment I'm walking in my God design, I feel like God, I'm walking like that. I'm assuming to be God, okay? And I'm taking the next best step in the moment, and my actions feel like they're in alignment. When things don't feel like it's right, I can easily turn away from it. Well, not easily, but I find myself being able to turn away from it. Whether it's, okay, I know I have this work to do tomorrow, and this woman calls me. Every time she calls me, she comes over. She might influence me to drink, or I feel more inclined to drink and have sex when I'm around her. Now I say no. Okay? So I feel like I'm in alignment. What would that actually look like to you once you know what you want? All right? And then how can I begin living today as if my vision is already true? What can I do right now, today, to live like that? Typically, this is just as easy as assuming that you are God, walking through life like you are the God of your reality. Like everything is working out for you in alignment to your truest desires. Okay. So step one is going to be figuring out what you actually want. Right. But the most important part is actually walking like everything is working out for you. Even if you're walking like everything is working out for you, your life is going to be a lot better. But if you really start to point at a primary desire, your life is going to be exceptional. Okay, exceptional. I thought I saw another comment. Oh, shoot, I did. Oh, what's up, bro? What's up? All right, y'all. But I think that was it. Yeah, that was it. That was it for today. Okay, so in conclusion, right, we talked about 3 things. The Trinity of you. We talked about aligning your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. We also talked about some of the pitfalls in the world that lead to those 3 things being out of alignment. Because a divided you is very difficult when you are a house divided. When your temple, when we talk about the house, the temple of you, your body is the temple of God. You divided, it's very difficult for you to get the things that you want. So you want to be aligned. And what are some things that can help you get in alignment? Or what are some of the common pitfalls that we have with our thoughts, with our emotions, and with our actions? It's our food. It's being a slave to our lust. Or we're just doing things out of alignment, eating out of alignment. But also heaven versus earth. It talks about these things as if they are 2 distinct things. When really you are inside God and God is inside you. You cannot be separate. God is within you and God is everything outside of you. Okay, so there is no spirit versus, there's no heaven versus, right? It's all you. All right, so when you don't understand that and you're already thinking from a point of division, then you have all these other things that are meant to keep your mind divided. Politics keeps your mind divided. Religion keeps your mind divided. The food keeps you in a lower state of consciousness, damn near sedated. Sex keeps you sedated. You don't feel as sharp after you pop a nut off, right? That's why the explicit sites are free. Hey, all of these things are intentional. Spraying stuff in the air is all intentional. Like music, which artists are promoted the most? Not the ones telling you to take control of your mind and right manifest what you want. The ones that are saying, man, let's go hit 10 bitches this weekend. The ones saying that they're gonna shoot and kill each other. These are the ones that are being promoted. Okay? So now I'm not saying you have to cut all these things out. It's impossible. I wouldn't say just cut all food out, but are you being mindful of what you place in your body? Are you trying to eat healthier? Okay, are you trying to fast occasionally? Are you trying to be more mindful of the music? Maybe listen to less. Maybe just not identify with as much. Okay, maybe what could you do instead of listening to all the media? If your beliefs and your thoughts truly shape your reality, what are you doing to try to control your reality more? Actually try to control the influences in your mind. You have 60,000 thoughts a day. How many of those thoughts are spent on stuff you don't want to experience? I'm complaining about this politician because I'm saying what he's doing could ruin my life. That's me basically saying that I'm a victim to him or her. They're influencing my life and they don't even know me. I've taken a victim position to them. And I don't even feel good. Why do I not feel good? Because God says, whatever you ask in the Father's name. The Father's name is I am. How do you ask? You say, I am a victim to this politician because they're doing this wrong. You don't say it directly, but you might say it indirectly. So by me saying I am a victim, I'm saying that God is a victim because I'm using God's name in vain right there. And God can never be a victim. So now I'm a house divided. I'm a double-minded man. Right? So this is why all the news is always negative because it wants you to feel like a victim. It knows the God within you could never be a victim. So when you start feeling like a victim, you don't feel empowered. Or you start trying to impact reality on the lowest level, which is action. It's the lowest level of reality creation. Okay, when in alignment with all the other things, it's powerful. But when out of alignment, it does nothing. You can walk in circles. You can dig holes all day, right? But there'll be nothing that comes out of it. So one of our primary goals, things that we need to do, right, is aligning our thoughts, our emotions, and actions. You have a blessed day as well. I appreciate you. Okay. So I'm gonna end this right here because it's almost 1. Thought I was gonna finish earlier so we could do Q&A, but apologize, can't. Might jump on later on today or in the morning. But let's end with a quick prayer, do some affirmations, and we can go about our business. Okay. Heavenly Father, continue to show us the pitfalls in our life that try to take us from our identity. We understand that everything that you place in our life is a divine trigger meant to wake us up to who we really are and put us closer to all the desires in our heart. I pray for anyone going through pain, going through heartbreak, going through loss, betrayal, that they find the peace that only you can provide, and they also understand that that peace that they're looking for is always within them and ready to be tapped into. Okay? Lord, I see you all as beautiful, as prosperous, as divine, as perfect, as in alignment with everything that you want. Right? You can have it all. You can have the relationship, the money, the car, the prosperity. You can have everything. No limits. The only limitation is your mind. All right? This is the journey of moment-to-moment awareness. You can't build Rome in a day. Even if you try to make the plans for it, guess what? By the time you get to next week, those plans will change. Do the best that you can today. Do the best that you can in this moment and handle the next moment as it comes. What is the righteous decision? What is the righteous decision? Okay? What is the righteous decision? You are all blessed. You are all prosperous. You are gods. You are goddesses. You have no limitations. If anyone else comes to you with a limitation, let them argue by themselves. Right? You stay divine. You stay divine. You stay blessed. I can tell I'm getting tired because I'm stumbling over words, man. But I will talk to y'all soon. Y'all stay prosperous, and I appreciate y'all. Later.